Welcome back, everybody. This is Tucker. Let's talk weather. Another severe weather outbreak is imminent, and this one appears even stronger. I'm giving you my latest thoughts on timing and just how high the tornado threat goes. How's it going, everyone? Hope you've been safe over the past few days. We've obviously had some active weather, and we're getting to that time of year when tornado season begins to peak, so here comes another wave. As I've mentioned before, if you have any questions, I will get back to each and every one of you in the comments. I do expect this next outbreak is going to be as significant or more significant than the last one. And to give you some comparison, here are our storm reports from the past few days. Green indicating hail, blue winds, red tornado. That was on the 29th. If we move this into the 30th, you're going to see this was our big day. Of course, this was Sunday. A lot of wind reports on the north side of this, a lot of hail reports on the south side. Some of those wind reports will end up becoming tornado reports after they're surveyed. And so far here on Sunday, we got a lot more storms still going, so more reports will come in, but that's what we've seen so far. What this says, though, is that there is a lot of activity already, and we are expecting a lot more. So let's get into the forecast and get you prepared. All right, guys, starting off here with our outlooks, and here's the outlook for Tuesday, which you can see beside me. A pretty broad area in this yellow level 2 risk, and a small area in this orange level 3 risk. We're looking at a general tornado risk across the entire area. The greatest threat for hail is going to be on the southern side of this, and really anyone in this, especially in the northern portion, is going to be looking at the damaging wind threat. The bullseye for all three of those, of course, is right there in central Kansas. Again, this is Tuesday, but mainly after dark, and we'll talk more about timing here, but I also want to show you our other outlooks, and that includes this guy here on Wednesday. This is going to be our big day, and I do expect this will be bigger than what we just saw on Sunday. In fact, I would not be surprised if we do see an upgrade somewhere in this area here to a moderate risk. The greatest concern is going to be tornadoes and damaging wind, especially on the northern side of this thing, closer to the low. And large hail will be a threat too, but more so on the southern end of this. And once more, we're looking at a widespread, significant, severe weather threat. So Wednesday's one of those days, especially if you're in that level 3 risk, to already be thinking about what you are doing that day and where you're going to go if there is severe weather at any point. Once again, we'll talk about timing, but let me show you the last day of this risk, which takes us here to Thursday. In fact, I actually do expect Friday will be included as well, but we don't have an outlook from the Storm Prediction Center yet. This is a general level 2 risk. I would be surprised if it wasn't upgraded somewhere in the middle of this. I can't tell you exactly where at the moment because there's some deviance in the data we're getting, but this is a pretty broad area, and for a lot of the spots that are already facing severe weather the day prior. And as I mentioned, on Friday, I would not be surprised if we have somewhat of an overlap with severe weather sort of sagging slowly south, but the front producing these severe storms isn't going to move very much, which is going to cause some flooding risks too. And now we'll talk about timing, and I'll show you which times and areas you especially need to be on watch for. So I'm starting us off here on Tuesday, and what you're seeing is this guy right here. Just like what we saw around Friday last week, we're reloading with a storm system that rapidly develops along the Rocky Mountains, and there is going to be a lot of wind here too. You're seeing all those black lines packed tight together. That's the warm air and moisture being pulled northwards, in fact. If I move this forward a little more, we're looking at daytime Tuesday here. Not seeing much yet, because there is going to be a cap in place. That cap prevents storms from developing. But as we get later into the day, and I'm expecting it to be as early as the early evening or as late as, 10 o'clock at night, that's when these storms are going to begin to pop up. Just depends on how soon that cap is eroded, as we say. And now you're beginning to see storms, at least some storms, develop in this region here. If I move this forward a little more, now you can see them really beginning to burst. And this is around 9, 10 o'clock at night, like I said. So we're looking at a pretty broad coverage for storms, especially in the northern end of this threat, but you're going to see some of the storms tail off on the southern end here too as we get later into the night. And this is now completely overnight. So one of the things you need to think about too is if you're in a spot where there's going to be severe weather and it's after dark, you want to have something that can wake you up. So make sure emergency alerts are turned on your phone and make sure that ringer's turned up too. Now, as we move this into your Wednesday, you're going to see storms never really break down overnight. They're going to stay strong, but we will see more develop as we head into the day on Wednesday. And this is really midday here. You can see a very broad line of storms that develops ahead of this storm system. The greatest tornado risk, like I said, I expect is going to be in this area here, a little bit ahead and closer to that surface low pressure system. Here we are, storms especially strong in Illinois, Indiana, Ohio. We're looking at Missouri, Arkansas, Tennessee, really getting hit hard by these storms. Even as far south as Arkansas, we have that risk for severe weather. And now we're getting into Wednesday evening, but storms are going to stick around. In fact, I do expect there will be some weakening, but that potential for severe weather will be there on a lower level through the night. As I move this into Thursday, you're going to notice something here, and you're probably already seeing it. We're looking at what is going to be a storm system that kind of persists, especially across this part of the country, because we're going to have a front coming off this low pressure system. It's just going to stick around right there, and it's going to keep storms in play through at least Thursday here. This is getting into the afternoon already on Thursday, and even into Friday. Like I said, I would not be surprised if we still have a severe weather risk in that general area. That's also why we're concerned about flooding, because storms stick around there for quite a bit. Good news though, and I'll back this up a little more, for areas farther north and east, I don't expect severe weather is going to have as easy a time getting up here into the northeast, but there could be a little bit of wintry weather in the mountains, so something else to think about if you're in that area. Hey, by the way, guys, if you're not already subscribed, be sure to do so that I can keep you updated throughout this severe weather. And like I said, you can ask your weather questions for free. I'll answer them in the comments, and I'll always get back to you guys here. I always like to look at some of the cutting edge data. This is some of the machine learning data from Colorado State University. We're going to take a look at Tuesday here. Here's our risk for tornadoes. You can see this does have that positioned a little farther south near Oklahoma. I believe it will be a little farther north than this is giving us, but you can see that hail risk more so near Oklahoma, and the wind risk pretty broad here as well. Again, this is as things start on Tuesday, but we can open this up and give you a look at the next few days too. And really what comes out and comes into notice is this severe weather risk on Wednesday. So one of the spots I was talking about was closer to that low up here. That, I believe, is where we're going to have the highest tornado risk, but still a certain risk for damaging wind and hail on the southern end. You can kind of see two different bullseyes there. On Thursday, that severe weather risk, very present on our model here. On Friday, it's still out there. This does have it shifting closer to Texas. We'll have to see on that. Depends if we can get a secondary low to develop, then yes, certainly Texas, Oklahoma, and Arkansas will be in play, and you'll want to check back for updates on that one too. But even into Saturday, if that front hangs around, we may be looking at another day of severe weather, primarily focused on the southeast, which brings me to some of my other concerns, including flooding, and you'll want to take this one seriously. Let me show you how much rain's about to fall. Flooding is an overlooked concern a lot of times, and while it isn't as big as perhaps a tornado threat all the time, this one is going to be significant, so I want you to take this very seriously. I'm going to move this forward as we go through our severe weather event. You can see that rain overtaking the central U.S., that storm activity adding to high rainfall amounts, and here we are at the end of Thursday. So this is when our severe weather begins to slow down just a bit. Anywhere you're seeing these red colors, those are rainfall amounts on the order of about 2 to 4 inches, and that's a lot of rain on its own. But remember, that front's going to stagnate and sit around across the southeastern and mid-south U.S. And what you're going to see on Friday and even into Saturday is that rainfall amount really tick up. And what we're looking at here by the end of Saturday is some dangerous levels of rainfall. You know, we're talking about amounts that may be on the order of 8 to 10 inches in many spots. And given the terrain in this part of the country, you know, those hills, especially in Tennessee, we've seen how bad flooding disasters can be out there. That can really make for some significant flooding concerns. So I want you to be thinking about this, especially if you live in a flood-prone area. As we go into and through the weekend, that rainfall is going to become a very big problem, especially from Ohio as far south and west as the corner of northeast Texas. So please take this one seriously. Also got to mention snowfall here. There is going to be some with this storm as well on the back end, and you're seeing some of our weather models here paint not just snow in the mountains out west where we've seen a lot all winter, but more so the north central U.S. Once again, not a big portion of the country, but we're talking the northern portion of Minnesota. We're talking North Dakota, some of South Dakota could see a 6-inch snowfall. Northern Wisconsin may see some snow out of this too, but I believe a lot of that's going to end up being mixing. And those mountains in New England also have the chance to see some snow, but mainly out towards Maine. If anyone's going to see 6 inches, though, I do believe the best chance is going to be northern Minnesota and right along Lake Superior there, closer to like Duluth and up towards the Arrowhead. So it's still not done with winter, but we're really seeing those snow chances more contained. And I'll also mention, too, the wind, because we're going to have a persistent fire risk if you're in the southwest, south central U.S., right around here. So, you know, some of the usual suspects, Texas, New Mexico, Colorado, and Kansas. You're going to see, especially in this area, those wind gusts really begin to increase as our storm gets going. Anyway, you're seeing those red colors. Those are gusts of at least 50 miles per hour, if not closer to 60 plus. And you'll see a few days where that wind is going to be partially strong out there. Eventually, it does weaken as we get later and the storm moves on, but it is going to be a pretty wide-reaching storm with those impacts across a good portion of the U.S. As I mentioned before, make sure you're doing the things you have to keep yourself safe. Make that your top priority, especially as we get into Wednesday. And if you're in some of those flood-prone or potential areas later in the week, you got to think about that too. But in the meantime, be sure to check back here for updates. Drop any questions you have in the comments. Be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you right back here next time.